Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our Planning and Heritage Committee meeting. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Any declarations of conflicts? Seeing none, I will just note that we
I
have,
do, sorry.
oh, okay,
On
Second.
6B, sorry.
so do we still have quorum? I guess the mayor counts as quorum when he's here, or the mayor counts as quorum either way? He has to be here, so then we still have,
Oh, you could move it to the
yeah,
end.
and so we still have, okay, perfect, yep.
After, well, it'll have to be after the because he wants to be here for the bog discussions too, right?
Yep,
So maybe put B to D and C to B and D to C?
So
Like
if he's
move
gonna,
it,
if he's gonna be here for both of them, the easiest thing is we're just gonna move the SDRs to the final item. That way you're able to go and take a little break and not have to come back in before the planning board meeting.
sure.
So we'll just move the STRs from, just trying to look where it is here.
It's B.
B, yeah, we'll move B to, we'll, yeah.
C becomes B.
Yeah, perfect.
D becomes
Yep.
C. B
Yep.
becomes D.
Whatever that was, that's good, perfect, okay. So approval of the new agenda. Moved by Councillor McCabe and seconded by Councillor Beck, thank you.
I'll just, yeah, I might not be here after for,
Planning board?
well, I won't be here if I'm leaving for the STRs. I do want to come back for new business because I do want to bring up something, just.
Sure, no problem,
So I'll come back for that.
certainly,
at
and we'll
the-
make sure we
after
come
that
get you,
discussion.
for sure,
Yeah.
yep. Adoption of the minutes from our meeting from May 23rd, moved by Councillor Beck and seconded by Councillor McCabe. Any business arising from those minutes? Seeing none, we can move right on to reports. And the first one will be a review of the City of Charlottetown Housing Needs Assessment. And I believe, who is giving us that?
I am.
Okay, over to you, Sebastian.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, everyone. The purpose of this report is to provide the Planning and Heritage Committee with an overview of the completed housing needs assessment, HNA, for the City of Charlottetown, which is required for municipalities with a population greater than 30,000. Details are as follows. As the federal government strives to become a more informed investor, evidence-based tools that provide a clear assessment of local needs and gaps will be required to inform decision-making. The preparation of HNA is one such tool. HNAs will help all levels of government understand the local housing needs of communities, how they may relate to infrastructure priorities by providing the data necessary to determine what kind of housing needs to be built and where. The intent, Madam Chair, is to promote systematic planning of infrastructure that takes into consideration current and future housing needs. The HNA report is structured into 7 comprehensive chapters, each addressing a critical aspect of Charlottetown's housing needs, from the methodology used in the assessment to the detailed analysis of community profiles, household characteristics, priority groups, and housing stock. Each chapter builds on the previous one to provide a thorough understanding of the current and future housing landscape, provides essential insights to guide long-term planning and policy development. The methodology explains the research methods used to conduct the housing needs assessment, including data collection and analysis techniques. It outlines the scope of the study and criteria for evaluating housing needs. Community profile and trends. This section provides an overview of Charlottetown's demographic and economic trends, highlighting population growth, age distribution, and employment patterns. It identifies key factors influencing housing demand and in the community. Household profiles and economic characteristics. This chapter examines the composition and economic status of households in Charlottetown, including income levels, housing costs, and employment rates. It discusses how these factors impact housing affordability and accessibility. In priority groups, this section identifies specific population groups with unique housing needs, such as seniors, low-income families, and individuals with disabilities. It assesses the challenges these groups face in accessing suitable housing. Housing profile. This chapter explains a detailed analysis of the current housing stock in Charlottetown, including types of housing, occupancy rates, and conditions. It highlights gaps in housing supply and areas needing improvement. Projected housing needs and next steps. This section offers the projection for future housing needs up to year 2031. And that's a 10-year projection from the base year, which is 2021. And this is based on demographic trends and economic factors. It outlines recommended actions and strategies to address these needs, including policy changes and development initiatives. Use of the housing needs assessment in long-term planning. This chapter discusses how the findings of the housing needs assessment can be integrated into long-term planning efforts. It emphasizes the importance of ongoing monitoring and adaptation to ensure housing policies remain effective. Can we get the slide up, please? Thank you. In this chapter, we're looking at community profiles and trends. Existing housing policy, including housing strategies and action plans guiding housing development. These include the official plan of 1999, the Affordable Housing Incentive Policy, the Housing Accelerator Fund Action Plan, and these were also the 2015 East Royalty Master Plan and West Royalty Commercial Area Transportation Plan were also consulted. Under community profile, the HNA required information from census year 2021, and that is our base year for all projections. Population, as in age distribution, and immigration were also examined. Note the population in 2016 was 36,094, and that increased in 2021 to 38,809, an increase of 7.5%. At the end of December 2024, the approximate population in Charlottetown was 41,125. Continuing with community profile and trends, we ask the question, how population changes impact the housing market? In-migration continues to be the driving force behind the city's rapid and steady growth over the last two census periods. The increase in the number of immigrants between 2016 and 2021 added to the existing high demand for rental properties. Work opportunities in Charlottetown continue to attract people from outside the city. The net effect is an increased demand on the limited housing supply. With majority of the population in the 15 to 64 years age cohort, there is a need for diverse housing options to accommodate families, singles, working professionals, retirees, and students. If you look at the chart, the graph to the right, it gives you the populations from years 2006 up to 2021. 2026 up to 2051 are projected years. And our target year, 2031, the projected population is 42,850. I'm lying. 47,800. 325. Thank you. Moving on to household profiles and economic characteristics. The total number of households in 2016 was 16,100, and this grew to 17,180 in 2021, an increase of 6.71%. Household income, the median 2021 was 66,000. Tenant household income, that median was 51,600, which is a little bit below the general, the average. Owner household median was 99,000. Average household size at 2021 was 2.2 persons. And the breakdown of household size was for one person household, we have 6,110. Two person households, 5,860. Three person households, 2,470. 4 person households, 1,790. And for 5 or more persons in a household, that's 945. Tenant households make up 54.2% of the market, while owner households is 45.8%. These figures show quite an income disparity. There is significant disparity between tenant and owner households. Tenant households, not shown in this table is the number of households by income category. 480 persons are in the very low income category, and this translates to 1.37% of the population. And these persons are earning less than $13,300 per annum, which translates to an affordability of $333 required for monthly income. 2,975 persons fall within the low income category, and this translates to 17.18% of the population, with an average income ranging from $13,300 to $33,250. And their affordability range is $333 to $831. 6,900 persons are in the high income category, and this translates to 41.23% of the population. And the earning is a minimum of $79,801 per annum. And their affordability range is a minimum of $1,996 per month. As it relates to workforce recruitment and retention of employee well-being, if we look at the chart, the top 5 worker categories are shown here, and these include retail trade, healthcare and social assistance, public administration, accommodation and food service, and educational services. The total number of persons in the working population in 2021 was 21,155 persons. Within the census subdivision, that's in Charlottetown, there were 675 persons. And if we look at the commuting, the mode of commute, 13,525 persons traveled by car, van, or truck. 635 persons use public transit. 1,515 walk to work. 90 persons use bicycles, and 265 persons use other methods.
What's another method? Skateboarding?
The study did not say what those other methods were,
Okay.
but research informs that persons have had to give up jobs and return to their original places of abode because there were no available housing accommodation in Charlottetown. And this affects workforce recruitment and retention of employees, because this is critically tied to availability of housing units. If persons can't find somewhere to live, then they won't be able to work in that locality. What this translates is a lack of stable and consistent labor supply, and this limits business expansion, limits investment, and ultimately suppresses economic development. This brings me to a short discussion on vacancy rates. A healthy vacancy rate in any community is just about 3%. It shows a good balance of availability of units between tenants and owners. 2%, a 2% vacancy rate shows that there is high demand for rental units. 4% tells you that there is an abundance of supply. However, between 2021 and 2024 December, the vacancy rates in Charlottetown have been just about 0.9%, which tells you that the availability of units are next to none. Among the issues being experienced by the population include new units being rented at very high rates, and the conversion of rental units to condominiums, and this has gained popularity, reducing in a shrinkage of the rental stock. Factors that have influenced the housing situation includes immigration, both international and interprovincial. There has been a decrease in the construction of multifamily rental units, and affordability remains a challenge. Some tenants find it too expensive to rent in the city. Therefore, they have to live on the outside of Charlottetown, often in communities like Stratford or Cornwall, or even further. And this creates other issues related to transportation expensive. Some developers believe not enough land was zoned for medium and high density development. Looking at priority groups, at the end of 2021, 147 persons were classified as being in chronic homelessness. Under living situations, 18% of persons were in shelters. Individuals living in transitional housing, 52%, and those referred to as hidden homeless, 17%. This translates to, on the demographics, youth age 16 to 18 years, 2%. Indigenous individuals, 1%. LGBTQ plus individuals, 2%. Individuals identifying as females, 41%. Individuals identifying as males, 57%. If we look at the housing profile for 2021, there were a total of 17,180 dwellings. Single detached were 7,480. 77.
Can you click back? It's moving ahead there.
Went too far.
Housing profile. There you go.
Thank you. Semi-detached, 1,560. Row houses, 570. Apartments in a duplex, 550. Apartments in a building with less than 5 floors, 6,700. Apartments in an apartment building with more than 5 floors, 45. The chart on the right shows you the number of housing starts up to December 2024. And we're just going to focus a moment on 2021 and beyond. There was a significant increase of housing starts in 2021. This dropped very little in 2022, and there was a dip in 2023, but increased again in 2024. The projections anticipated for 2031, and remember the base year is 2021. The anticipated total population is 47,325 persons. The anticipated percentage change is 22%. The average age for 2031 is projected to be 42.9 years. The anticipated number of households for 2031 is 20,932. Anticipated units by unit type for 2031, a total of 20,970. And we expect 9,125 single detached units, semi-detached, 1,905, row houses, 695, apartments, 9,245. Anticipated household size for 2031 is 2.26. I have taken the liberty of projecting to 2036 just to give the committee an idea of what the expected distribution will be like then. For long-term planning, this is telling us that much social and physical infrastructure will be required to accommodate the growing population. And these physical infrastructure include sewage, water expansion, road network expansion, public transit, and in meeting social infrastructure, there needs to be a policy put in place to accommodate the growing population. In wrapping up, under the Housing Accelerator Fund, the Government of Canada requires funding recipients to complete an HNA by the third year of the program. Going forward, HNAs will be required for communities with a population of 30,000 and over, receiving funding through the Canada Community Building Fund. Communities with a population of 30,000 and over, receiving funding through Permanent Transit Fund, and future federal infrastructure funding applicants as required. A copy of the housing needs assessment is posted on the city's website under resident services. And you can check that at any time. So, in closing, the Planning and Heritage Committee is recommending. Let me read again. Staff is recommended that the Planning and Heritage Committee share their support and presentation with council for information purposes.
Great idea.
And I'll be happy to attempt to answer any questions that you may have.
Great, thank you for this, and if anyone has any questions for clarity, it's a great document to put into your toolbox to refer to.
It's a great report.
Yeah, it is a great report. Does anyone have any questions for Sebastian? Go ahead.
Sebastian,
Your worship.
You did a lot of work on this. This is great.
Thank you.
These all came from Stats Can, so could I just get you to go back to the breakdown of family income? Where it was owner households, tenant households. Can you just bring it up on the screen there? Keep going back. Back. Keep going back. Okay, oh, right where you broke down, you had numbers.
Okay.
Back one more, or go ahead. Okay. Let's just stop there. You said that of the very low income tenants,
Yes.
they were taking in a income of $13,000, is that correct?
That is correct.
Well, the poverty line is 19,000. Man, oh man, how would you,
Bear in mind that this data was for 2021.
yeah, well, even back in 2021, it was 19,000.
I think you'd be really surprised to see how people live here.
Oh, I've been in them. And I'm sure you've been in them too, like all of us, as counselors, yeah. But that's, and the number I think you had was 490 or 690 were living in,
480 persons.
okay, and then the mode of commute, can you just bring that slide up? Mode of commute. No, go back. I was interested in that because the number of vehicles, trucks, cars, and I guess planes, trains, and automobiles.
Yes. Yes, sir.
It's quite amazing that, you know, we have a climate action plan and that we can take those numbers and use that as a means of pushing, screaming, yelling from the rooftop.
Yes.
Transit has to be affordable, dependable, which it is, affordable, dependable, and reliable. So these are great numbers to have. And I'm not surprised by the vacancy because I think Michael has already told us that it was down at 1%. You have it at
Point-
0.01,
Yes.
1%. Like that's, wow. And going from 17,185 households, 2024 to 20,000 in 6 years, 7 years. It's going to be a lot of construction.
Yes.
Anyways, thank you very much. Great report. And yeah, this, I would put this up on our charlottetownhall.ca and promote it on our social media platforms because people have to see these numbers, especially the number about those family incomes. I think that's shocking. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
worship. Councillor Beck?
I was just going to tag on to that. I think our readers, like I got through it. I didn't get through the whole thing, but when I scanned of the whole overall document, but when you bore deeper into all the different parts, it's very revealing. And I think, again, with today's scrollers, if you will, they'll want to see something that they can sort of digest quickly. I liked what you did in terms of breaking down some of this stuff here today, and maybe if we could tease out some of those things and kind of as a bit of a trailer to say, if you want to learn more, here's the link. These are some of the kind of the big highlights that you should know. If you want to learn more information like this, here's where you go. Because I think if we just put the link up of the report without any context, people won't go. But if we kind of tease them with, because I found it very interesting, and you know, given where we are with our OP adoption, with our zoning development bylaws coming up, this is a great tool, again, which came from the housing or as part of our housing accelerator fund. So if I understand it again, we have to do this again in 5 years' time? Am I correct on that?
That is correct.
Okay. And I noticed earlier on, it was referencing a Vancouver report and an Edmonton report, but then it listed a whole bunch of other things, CMHC, StatsCan, whole bunch of census profiles and things like that, like multiple sources of data which have gone into the compilation of this report. Is that where we catch the kind of the eastern focus? Like that's where we're kind of getting comparative data for, like, we're not basing it on Vancouver models or Edmonton models, or we're taking that information that's coming from that supplementary databases that are all incorporated. I think we listed about 8 or 9 of them that were in there. Is that where that information's coming from to help
Not
paint the
quite.
picture for us?
Not quite. Those reports were model reports, among the first that were produced as HNAs, and they were provided as a guide for persons that will be doing HNAs thereafter. The data contained herein is taken directly from StatsCan or CMHC. Other data was
Stantec?
sourced. Stantec didn't provide, well, yes, Stantec did provide some data, but a lot of the data had to be sourced within Charlottetown itself. Yeah.
Okay.
Great, thank you for that. So I don't think, do we need a motion to move this onto council? It's really just going for information?
Look,
is-
I'll move the report.
Okay.
We have to move it. I'll
Okay,
move it.
perfect.
And-
Moved by his worship, seconded by Councillor McCabe,
Yeah.
that we move this on to council for information purposes in the monthly meeting of council package, so.
And
that's
I think,
great.
Madam Chair, if Sebastian could look at using your, Sebastian, Michael, just using the presentation, that's what I'd put up in charlottetownhall.ca. The report itself has lots of, like, it has a lot of information, and to try to connect the dots, you know, you'll have to take a weekend to look at it. But great stuff, and I think that make it readable. What did I have, Madam Chair, you'd say bring it down to what, grade 6 level? Okay.
Yeah, through the chair, we're happy to do that. We can work with the comms team on providing some kind of highlights to council's various points on the report. And I think, you know, everyone here has pointed out the fact that all this data also impacts the way that we move forward on some of these major policy pieces, whether it's the AT strategy and our you know, different modes of transportation that has been seen around the community, or our land use direction with the zoning development bylaw, the official plan. And so, you know, the city is moving forward on a number of these big pieces, so all this information needs to feed into that.
Great, thank you for that. And we can move on to our next report, which is the conversion of the Heritage Officer position. I believe Donna's online to give that. And if you're wondering, Your Worship, we reversed the role around just in case you were running behind, so that's why this is, yep, no problem. So I believe that's Donna's report. So over to you, Donna.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the purpose of this report is to seek the Planning and Heritage Committee's recommendation to the HR Department and subsequently Council to convert the current part-time Heritage Officer position within the department into a full-time permanent role. So the Planning and Heritage Department currently has 2 designated Heritage Officers, 1 permanent full-time and 1 part-time. Earlier this year, we received approval from Council to appoint our Policy Planner 2 as Heritage Officer to lead the review of Heritage Permit applications. So since the appointment of the current part-time Heritage Officer, and I know the committee knows that this is Todd, the scope and complexity of the role have evolved significantly. The portfolio now requires greater hands-on involvement in several areas to include developing, implementing, and managing strategies, programs, policies, and activities to advance the city's objectives in heritage planning, conservation, development, and community revitalization. They're also required to administer and enforce the Heritage Preservation Bylaw in coordination with the Planning and Heritage Department staff. They're also required to review, evaluate, and process heritage permit applications to ensure compliance with the heritage bylaw, applicable guidelines, and regulatory procedures. They are also required to coordinate and oversee the city's annual heritage awards and heritage fair events. They're also required to represent the city on internal and external heritage boards, advisory panels, and intergovernmental committees. They're also involved in preparing reports, presentations, and materials for council, committee, public meetings, and stakeholder consultations. And a detailed list of all the responsibilities are included in your package as attachment A. So as we all know, Charlottetown continues to experience rapid population growth and increase in development pressures, particularly within heritage areas, specifically the 500 lot area. These pressures require sustained and focused response from staff to ensure heritage values are appropriately considered and that these heritage resources are protected in the face of ongoing urban development. Converting the current part-time heritage officer position into a full-time permanent role would help to address these demands and provide critical operational support. The transition would also alleviate the workload of the Planner 2/Heritage Officer, who is also expected to play a more active role in planning policy development, specifically around the implementation of our Housing Accelerator Fund initiatives. With the city preparing to undertake a comprehensive review and update of the Heritage Preservation Bylaw, having dedicated full-time capacity will also ensure proper coordination, continuity, and engagement throughout the process. The proposed conversion reflects the evolving needs of the department and the city and will position the municipality to be more effectively manage conservation amid growing urban trends. With that said, the staff recommendation is that the Planning and Heritage Committee recommend to the Human Resources Committee that the current part-time Heritage Officer position be converted to a full-time permanent position. And with that, I'll hand back to the chair with any questions, and I hope to be able to answer. Thank you.
Thanks, Donna. So if I'm to understand this correctly, we're recommending this to the Human Resource Committee, then the Human Resource Committee is going to move it on to council? Is that correct?
Yes, Madam Chair, that's correct.
Okay. Okay.
I'll move that.
So we'll put the resolution on the floor, moved by Councillor Beck.
Second.
Seconded by His Worship. So the resolution's on the floor. Go ahead, Councillor McKay.
Thank you. And my question is, we have money that it's in the report that half funding is going to fund us, right? So,
Through you, Madam Chair, to Councillor McCabe, yes, and it was also included in our half spending plan that was presented last year to upgrade the position to full-time permanent.
and we still have to send this to HR committee to determine whether or not we think this is a position that's needed, or can this just not go to council?
I think to fine tune the question is, I understand that maybe the job description needs to be approved by HR, but what else does HR need to do in this role? If we have the money, like, I'm just wondering, what's the role in HR?
So, Madam Chair and Councillor McCabe, so currently the position is a part-time position, so they would have to change it from part-time to full-time. And that's something that the HR committee will do.
Great. Okay, so if there's no other questions, all those in, Councillor Beck?
I was just gonna say, all the job description is there and the qualifications, the job outline is there. I think we want to move on this as we have a retiring member. We have a new person in there. It'd be good to have that person in place as quickly as we can. So whatever we can do to move this along, let's move it along as quickly as we can.
So, Madam Chair, I might have missed it. So we're now going up to 2 full-time heritage officers, / planning officer 2. And also we have Natalie Munn, who's not a planner, but is part of our heritage office, correct? Is that, I'm just trying to get clarification.
Yep, so it's pretty well status quo with just the one position of the retired person who's leaving that has it as part-time to move that role up to full-time.
Good.
Yep.
Good. No, I think it's great. I think there's some questions that keep looming, keep coming to the top about buildings that we take down that are dilapidated and unsightly and dangerous. However, this is a way to protect those heritage builds.
Counselor Beck, you had another question?
Just what's the current position, part-time, like 50%, 60%?
It's 50%.
It's 50?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, so the question, the resolution's on the floor. All those in favor of moving this on to HR? Okay, unanimous, wonderful. Moving on to our next item on the agenda, which is now, what did we say we were doing next? Was it the patio report next? Yeah, so update on the progress report on the COVID-19 temporary patio bylaw. And who's giving us that report? Is that, okay, that's you, Sebastian. So this is just a brief update because we're not really there yet. I don't see anything in the agenda.
Yeah,
like-
there is no presentation.
It's just, this is just a verbal
Yes,
update.
just a verbal
Gotcha.
update.
Okay, over to you, Sebastian.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, let me start by saying we are not where we would like to be with regard to the progress of the report. This is primarily due to competing schedules and work assignments, which during the month of May. And I am currently in the process of re-evaluating the timelines and to tighten up where possible. However, we have completed 2 tasks to date and currently circulated an updated version to city staff for review. We are expecting that this review will be complete by next week, Tuesday, after which we will do a further amendment and then present here at the next Planning and Heritage Committee meeting. All right? And that's it for the update.
Great, thank you for that. And just to clarify, it was the direction of council when we discussed these bylaws that all things patio related would fall under one department, and it's going to be here. So that includes the existing patios on public right-of-way as well as those COVID patio ones. So this will be all falling under this department, is that correct?
That's correct, Madam Chair. And I would also just note too, for those in the public that may be watching, we will provide a further update on this project at the next committee meeting, but we'll also be doing some stakeholder engagement before this actually comes back to council for consideration for final changes to the bylaw.
Great, thank you. Thank you for that update. Pretty straightforward. I think we can move on unless somebody has any other comments. Great. All right, so moving on in our agenda, Councillor Beck will be taking a little brief exit as he is in conflict. Thank you for that. So our next item on the agenda is an update on the response to the notice of motion that I had brought forward in February. And so, yeah, so we'll turn that over to, I believe that's Donna again.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, Madam Chair. So the purpose of this report is to, as Madam Chair previously said, provide a response based on the council resolution directing staff to consult with an insurance expert on the alternatives to commercial general liability insurance as is outlined for short-term rental operators per our short-term rental licensing bylaw. So as members of the committee may be aware, in accordance with the city's short-term rental licensing bylaw, all SGR applicants are required to provide proof of commercial general liability insurance with a minimum coverage of $2 million per unit. And so, as Madam Chair had mentioned, there was a motion brought, and we provided preliminary findings and recommendations. And then prior to that, council requested that we do additional research to provide a detailed assessment and a recommendation. So we subsequently received a legal opinion from the city's solicitors at Cox and Palmer, and Stephen Forbes is in council chambers today, and he provided this legal opinion. A summary of the key findings are: a standard homeowners insurance policy typically does not include liability coverage for the operation of a short-term rental without additional endorsements or policy extensions. The Insurance Bureau of Canada confirms that most homeowner policies include exclusions for loss, damage, or liability arising from or involving business activity, which includes any activity undertaken for compensation. Relying solely on a homeowner's policy may result in inadequate coverage for STRs, potentially leading to denied claims for accidents arising from any stays. Staff's earlier recommendations to maintain $2 million in liability coverage is consistent with industry norms and prioritizes public safety. And these findings are all outlined in more details in your package as attachment. While $1 million may cover most claims, the legal assessment notes that claims exceeding this threshold present a measurable risk that could place the operator's personal assets at risk. Having appropriate insurance coverage may help deter or limit erroneous claims brought against the city. However, the presence of insurance requirements in the bylaw neither increases nor diminishes legal liability for the city. The current $2 million liability coverage requirement for STR operators is considered both adequate and reasonable in ensuring public protection. And this is also outlined in the jurisdictional scan that is present in your package, where a number of cities across Canada defer to using 2 million or above. Based on those, the staff recommendation is that the Planning and Heritage Committee recommend to council that the $2 million commercial general coverage requirement to operate short-term rentals as set out in section 10 of the short-term rental licensing bylaw should remain. And with that, I'll turn it back over to you, Madam Chair, and also want to reiterate that Steve is with us in council chambers, and he and myself can answer any questions that the committee might have. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Donna. Any questions from, yep,
Madam Chair, if I may, before we begin.
Just hit your button there, Steve.
Thank you. If I may, just before we begin, I would point out that we're here to consider my letter, which I've offered to the city as legal advice. And should the committee so wish to do so, they may move to a closed session for consideration of legal advice, if you so wish.
I appreciate that. So do you folks want to move into a closed session and discuss this
So
legal,
what
as a legal
section are
matter?
we taking it under? Section 119 subsection 1F.
F, yep,
So
so,
just-
so a motion to move into closed session as per section 119, section
one
1F.
Subsection 1F.
My first one of these, so bear with me. I've never done this. So just-
Bear with you?
I gotta check with IT and make sure I'm pushing the right button.
Yeah, just turn off the camera.
I think I am. I think it push the button that says close meeting.
I'll move it.
Okay, moved by his worship, seconded by Councillor McCabe, that we're going to move into closed session to just discuss the legal aspects of our legal solicitor's letter. Okay, thank you. Okay, we are back in an open session. So just circling back to the report that we received from Donna on the response to the council resolution directing staff to consult with an insurance expert on alternatives to commercial general liability insurance for short-term rental operators, following a notice of motion by myself, Deputy Mayor. Staff's recommendation is that the Planning and Heritage Committee recommend to council that the $2 million commercial general coverage requirement to operate a short-term rental as set out in Section 10 of the short-term rental licensing bylaw, number 2023-PH-STR 2-000 should remain. So do I have somebody that would like to put a resolution on the floor to accept staff's recommendation? Or what do you have in terms of council, what you want to do to move on to council?
I don't know. I think again, for me, it's a full council discussion because I could change my mind when I learn more and think about what we heard in our closed session. I'll move it on to accept staff's recommendation with the potential that that could change with more time to process.
Yep,
second it.
That makes sense. I do anticipate a pretty healthy conversation at council on this subject.
And you're just moving it on to council, correct?
We are moving it on to council. Now, I should note, though, that when we move things on to council and we've accepted staff's recommendation, there will be no differing part of the report that says that the committee has a different opinion. So right now, it's moving on that the staff's recommendation and the committee's recommendation will be the same unless you tell me otherwise. Okay? So, all right, so that's being moved on to council. All right, thank you. Well, you both moved and seconded, okay, so all those in favor? Okay, all in favor. Are you? What? But you just moved it. Okay, never mind, fair enough. Okay, then I'll break the tie and I'll accept staff's recommendation and we'll take this back yes.
If I may, Your Worship, just where you're voting contrary to the committee's recommendation, it might be beneficial to add a reason or two on the record.
Record right now. As I pointed out earlier in just one second, the report, it talked about a question that I asked you, Mr. Forbes. And that was the question. Okay, just one second. It's some of the points, maybe it was you or Donna that listed the points. Coming down to it right now. And it is the issue regarding what I asked about having appropriate insurance coverage may help deter or limit erroneous claims brought against the city. However, the presence of insurance requirements in the bylaw neither increases nor diminishes legal liability for the city. To me, that $1 million, $2 million, again, we're not going to be liable as in that event. Secondly, we do have home occupation businesses that we don't have any insurance requirements. And I think that if we're going to be consistent, then we should look at the totality of the insurance requirements for anything that we do in the city where it intersects with residents doing businesses in their homes.
Thank you for that, Your Worship. And just to note that, as was explained, in terms of risk management, the insurance companies, as the research that was done by our legal, they look at risk and they look at the amount of time that folks are in somebody's personal residence. So when they talk about a small occupation business, they look at the amount of time that person may be in your home versus a 24/7 around-the-clock time that somebody is in your personal home, which was one of the reasons they looked at for why they felt a commercial liability plan was a recommendation.
And Madam Chair, good point, but remember, you've been in Airbnbs. I know people that do go on trips or
Oh.
We've stayed in Airbnbs.
Oh, okay.
We don't stay in them for 24 hours. We use them just as a place to sleep at night. In terms of apartments, when I owned an apartment, when I was living in an apartment on Water Street, we bought tenant insurance, but it was not required. And I think that there's issues here just at municipal and provincial levels that we have to look at. Thank you.
Okay, so we have, so just to reiterate, we're moving this on to council with staff's recommendation, and the committee vote was, Councillor McCabe was in favor, his worship was against. Me as the chair have broken the tie where we will move this on, so staff's recommendation and committee's recommendation is the same.
Yep.
Bear in mind, there will be a very healthy discussion, and both myself and Councillor McCabe could very well change our mind after that conversation. But as of today, in real time, we are supporting staff's recommendation. So we can move on. Okay, thank you. So can somebody ask Councillor Beck to come on back?
Come on in. Heard it all, listed the whole thing anyways.
Welcome back, Councillor Beck. So final item on the agenda, besides the introduction of new business, is a discussion on the bog, and I assume that's you, Donna?
Yes, Madam Chair. So in addition to the update that was provided at the last committee meeting, where I outlined that staff had met with Matthew McRae from PEI Museum, and that the bog tours are now live and anyone who wants to partake can do so, and that staff will also be doing the tour just to get an idea of what it's about and to see how we can collaborate if necessary. So in addition to that, we met with the executive director of the Black Cultural Society, who has a proposal to bring the original location of the bog to have it nominated as a National Historic Site. He also asked that staff from the city provide her with some information to assist with this nomination, and we've done so. However, we've not heard back from her yet to confirm if this application for the nomination has been submitted. But staff will keep having the meetings as necessary, and we'll continue to provide committee and council with additional updates as we go along.
Thanks for that, Donna. I know this was a project that I know his worship was, really pushing, and it's nice to see that we're making some headway on it. Anyone have any
And
comments?
Madam
Go ahead, Your
Chair,
Worship.
Donna, have you done the tour yet?
Not yet, Your Worship, but we're doing it soon.
You have to do the tour. Lori and I and some friends did it a couple of weeks ago. Very informative. You just go on to the Prince Edward Island Museum and Heritage Facebook page, and there's a link there where you can send an email to set up an appointment, and very informative. So I really recommend that you take it in. They set up appointments, and it's free of charge, but you can always leave a tip.
It might be something that we could ask staff to speak with comms about, maybe doing a little social media post around how easy it is to book in for a tour.
It is.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay,
Sorry,
you, Donna.
where does that tour take place at?
It takes place from Beaconsfield home.
Okay.
And just go on Facebook with Prince Edward Island Heritage Museum Foundation, and the link is there.
So anyone from the general public can do it?
Anybody. It is very good. And the photographs they refer to shows a whole different end of Kent Street. It's quite phenomenal.
amazing. Thank you for that. Okay, so we'll include a report in our council package at our monthly meeting of council next week. So introduction of new business. Anybody have any introduction of new business?
Madam Chair,
Councillor?
I would like to try to get some information on one of the projects that we're working on. And it would have to go into a closed session, but I'm not going to ask that for tonight. If we can just do it the next meeting, I just want to follow this track. So I'll give you more information afterwards.
Okay,
Thank you.
Yep, thank you. And Councillor Beck?
Yeah, I just, I guess I have a question, and I don't know where we're at. We recently acquired Boulder Park, right? And I'm wondering if there is I don't know whether it, we have Victoria Park permitted uses and that sort of thing. This is a pretty significant piece of land right in the heart of the city. And I'm wondering if there is an appetite or a need or a desire to prescribe some parameters around the usage. I know, like, just for example, last year during Christmas time, it was used for the Christmas market. I do know we held our candle lighting ceremony during Hanukkah around there at that time. But the land wasn't ours and it was still belonged to the Convent Center. So I just want to put that on the table, maybe for an item for future consideration, or I think it's important to have that because it won't be a problem until it's a problem.
I think that's a great idea, Councillor Beck. So if we want, we can ask staff to bring back a report at our next Planning and Heritage Committee meeting, should we warrant that falls under this committee. And if it doesn't, we'll ask staff that at least the report would include where it might be included
Right.
in that general conversation. And I see Director Mike's light on. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just wondering if you wanted me to give a brief verbal update on kind of where we were headed with that and.
Oh, yes, sure. And I don't mean to rush you, but brief because we're 24 minutes behind on our planning board meeting.
Appreciate that. So the CAO had passed along an update just on the property transfer and what our next steps looked like. So the intent was to bring forward a report to a future committee meeting for, forgive me, I think it's special special strategic priorities, or that's the one. Outlining that very question, what are the kind of the parameters moving forward? However, I would also note that in the bylaw list that council decided to prioritize, I believe kind of the parks bylaw was considered as part of it. And part of the rationale there, and it's very common in other municipalities, is having kind of the rules of the road for use of our parks. So I'm not sure if any of this is really a discussion for the Planning and Heritage Committee, but just wanted to try and provide you that information here and now. If that satisfies your question, right now we can address it through the other committees.
Yeah, I don't care where it belongs. Just as, I just think it should be maybe up for consideration. If it's in Parks and Rec, fine. If it's here, fine, wherever it might be. But anyway, that's great. Thank you.
Great, thank you for that, and a motion to adjourn. Moved by Councillor McCabe, seconded by Councillor Beck. All those in favor? Great, thank you, and we'll log out and log back in about 6 minutes. Thanks.